Welcome, guys. Today I want to talk about how there's no such thing as coincidences, luck, accidents. Everything that happens in our life is for a reason. I look back on my life and I think some things are random, but then I see how things have lined up and I'm like, this is God at play here. And when you're going through something, when you're having a hard time, you don't see any meaning in it. You're like, this is meaningless. Why am I suffering? But eventually you'll go back and look at it and be like, this is why I went through it, and you'll learn something from it, even though it sucked. And then sometimes when you go through stuff again, it's hard to remember that. Remember that you learned something from it. So it still might suck when you go through stuff again, even knowing that there's going to be something gained from it later. The first traumatic thing that I remember is being molested by someone in Boy Scouts who was a family friend. I was around 12 at the time. He was 2 years older, so I'd guess around 14. And then I got into kayaking 11 years ago, and through that I met someone who connected me with another individual who's able to share their own story with me of something that happened to them. And that allowed me to have the courage to speak up and finally tell my parents about it after 12 years of just hiding that and holding on to it. And let me tell you, that really lifts a lot of weight off your shoulders, being able to let something out like that. And I'm not going to lie, I held a lot of resentment towards my parents because I didn't feel like they gave me the emotional space to open up and share stuff like that and feel safe about it. And now I realized it's not their fault. Generation after generation of being told to suck it up, hold it in, and not talk about their emotions, so they just don't know better. That's something that you have to learn, and if no one tells you any other way, then you're never going to know or learn how to deal with your emotions and be open and share them. So that's something I've done a lot of work on myself, is being able to open and share stuff like this, not only to help myself, but be able to give other people the courage like someone gave to me. Another situation where something people would call luck is really just God working in our lives is I always knew that I should be in sales and get into sales, and I always push it off because it is scary. And eventually I went into HVAC, and when I was in working that job, I ran into my best friend's dad, who I haven't seen in like 5 or 6 years. And he tells me, hey, Nick, I'm getting ready to leave this company, join a new company, and start their sales team. You should come join me, hit me up later. And that's what I do now, is I work remotely in sales with an integrator in Pennsylvania, doing a lot of K-12 stuff, school stuff, with being a reseller for networking equipment and helping stock those schools with new equipment. And that was just another situation where things were lined up. It was part of a bigger plan. And a lot of this, you just can't explain why, but it just happens when you notice these patterns when you look back. Like, my return to God was because I was coming back after my van broke down and the drive shaft fell out. I couldn't afford to live on my own anymore and live in my van and travel, so I had to come home. And on that trip home, that I was forced by this situation I saw as a negative, I went on a business training webinar with Josh Forty, and through that I reconnected with someone named Tanner Wendell, who I worked with previously in a social media job years before. So I already had kind of a understanding of who he was, and I saw him make a Facebook post about psychedelics and psychedelic healing, and he tagged his co-host in it because he was having a podcast, and that co-host was Alan Witterhold. And I click over his profile because at this point I've been through a lot. I'm looking at alternative medicine, ways to heal through trauma. And psychedelics is one of those things, magic mushrooms. And I see he lives right near me. I'm like, oh, well, dang, let me reach out to him. So I reach out to Alan. We chat about it. He invites me to Mountain Christian. And I've always been a believer, but I didn't have a relationship with God. I'd called myself a Christian, but I didn't show it. I didn't read scripture. I grew up going to a Methodist church, and I just went because my parents went and dragged me along. But as soon as I was old enough to make that decision, I haven't really gone. I've done a few mission trips, but I wasn't really in a relationship with God. When he invites me to Mountain Christian, I go and I love it. And I ended up getting baptized. And all these things, like, I look back on now and I'm like, my car broke down, which got me on that webinar, which connected me with Tanner, then to Alan, then to go back to church and get baptized and meet all these amazing people in Mountain. That just pushed my faith so much further and pushed me closer to God. And nothing was by accident. This was all part of a plan that God had for my life. And it's just amazing to be able to look at all the crap that I look back on. I'm like, wow, that really sucked. but there was a reason for it. All these things lined up perfectly to put me where I am now. Like even in high school, I did computer networking and I gave it up. I was like, I'm never going to get into this. Now I'm back in networking doing sales with it. And it's something that having that foundational skills, wish I put more effort into it now, definitely benefits me now. But all these things are interconnected somehow, part of some bigger plan. And another thing that happened when I went back to church and met Alan, he introduced me to Coach Brandon King, who hosted a event to help men. And through that, I was isolated in the woods with other men, away from my phone, a nice digital detox. And on that last night, after one of the exercises, I cried and prayed to God and asked for him to take my addictions away. And I struggled with porn for 10 plus years since I was molested, and he introduced me to masturbation and pornography. I was able to give that to God, and after that day, I just stopped completely. And that was June of last year, 2024. I still struggle with lust. I still struggle with temptations. I've almost gone back and gotten close to it, but I've never gone over that line. And none of that would be possible without God in my life and me going back to him. I mean, he's always been in my life, but I turned away. I turned away like many people, turning to things like selfishness and self-pleasures and sleeping around, sex. And that was my biggest thing, is sex and porn. I never drank. I was too afraid of what might happen, what I might do. Never smoked. The only thing I've done is magic mushrooms, and that was a one-time experience, full trip, and then a few microdoses. But I learned through that men's event was that I don't need drugs. All I need is God. I don't need anything that's external. God is the only thing that will heal me and that can help me. And it's just been an amazing ride, and I want it for everyone. Like this is the only way. You might be happy in other ways, at least now, but once you die and you face that eternal separation from God, that's going to be worse than any image of hell that Christians try to portray, like fire and brimstone. That separation is going to be a lot worse, and I don't want that for other people. I want people to have a similar relationship and a deeper relationship than I have right now with God, because that's where ultimate joy is found.